I want to bring in Rupen Seoni. He's the Senior Vice President of Environics Analytics. He joins me from Toronto. Rupen, good to have you on the program. Tell me a little bit about how you use data to get some insight into how this vote is unfolding.
At Environics Analytics, we have a system that segments Canadians into 68 lifestyle types called Prism, and that's based on thousands of data points that we have at the postal code level that then we cross-reference with Elections Canada voting results from the last election, and that helps us understand who votes and how they're more likely to vote if they do.
Okay, so from your research, which groups or what groups of voters are most on the fence right now as the leaders try and, jockey for their support?
There are a few, but one in particular is the most affluent voters in Canada. Our top socioeconomic segments last time in 2015 made a bit of a switch over to the Liberals. They've traditionally been conservative voters. About half of them switched allegiances, and the Liberals seemed to make some gains. But the races were pretty close. So, in this election, as we looked at what's happening, I would imagine the Conservatives are trying hard to win these voters back with tax cuts. And that could potentially give them some headway in some of the ridings around the downtowns of larger cities where these affluent voters are found.
Interesting. Yeah, geography matters for sure in this upcoming election. Yeah. What about young voters? Could they be a factor? And if so, how are parties wooing their vote?
Well, I think the young voters are really going to be a group to watch quite closely. If we look back at what happened last time around, they quite decisively shifted from the NDP, which was many of these segments' preferred party, over to the Liberals. Now, they also came out and voted in much larger numbers in the last election than we've typically seen in the past. So they were quite engaged. Now, I think given some of the issues that we've seen in the past few years, this particular election with the young voters is going to be a bit of a litmus test to see whether they continue to be engaged or whether they're turned off. And yeah. I believe that this segment is more likely to just stay home if they're not engaged.
Really? I find that interesting because I got a couple teenagers. They're not voting age yet, but what they do care about is the environment. So I'm wondering if there's going to be more of a move towards the Green Party from the younger vote.
Well, they certainly have had a traditional strength, the Greens, with younger voters among a few other groups. So I think we're going to have to watch that closely to see whether we see some gains in the vote share by the Greens from what we've seen in the past. But then the NDP are also there, and there's a number of ridings, I should say, that depend on these younger voters that the NDP are going to be making all their efforts to try and retain.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. I wish we had more time, Rupen. Appreciate your insight today. Thank you.
My pleasure.